All right, let's try this video out here. This is going to be on kind of how I handle, when I find a failed heat exchanger or problem with the heat exchanger. I want to apologize actually in advance here because I have my ladies out here and they get a little rambunctious once in a while. They're eating their food right now, but they will start acting up here soon. So who's this video for? Mr. Centered here, and I'm doing this on a screen share on an iPad with the camera. The camera in the audio is probably not the best, and my heater just shut off. So this video is directed towards demand service technicians, that are running a no heat call, or maintenance technicians doing maintenances, or replacement technicians that are on an installation of an air conditioner only, and they see the heat exchanger has a problem, and they come across whatever. So if they come across a heat exchanger that's badly rusted, visible cracks, flame rollout, I actually have some. Let's see if I can pull up my pictures here. I took some photos here. Hopefully there's nothing. Let's roll out here. So cracked heat exchanger could be anything from like that. All right. One thing I want you to note is, you see, I know these pictures aren't that great, but you notice the black spots on here. Same thing here. Black spot, crack happened at the black spot. I'm gonna tell you what that is in a second here. Black spot, crack on a pinch, black spot. That's all due to flame impingement, okay? So when you have, so flame impingement, when the flames are, maybe the burners are, directed not properly down the heat exchanger, it was hitting the metal, whatever the case may be. I'm just, we're not going to teach you how to find heat exchanger problems, but these are just things that how I handle with these certain things I find, either badly rusted, visible cracks, if I have, flame rollout, or, wavering flames when the blower kicks on. So the first step that I take is to take photos or videos and show the customer, okay, what it is that I found specifically, okay? And the key here is, you don't get defensive. Don't get defensive, don't fall into that. Your job and your goal should be strictly to educate the customer on what is, what the situation is with their furnace or heat exchanger, okay? Then the next thing I do is I shut the gas off, all right, at the gas stop, not the gas control valve, but the gas stop, and then I flip the power switch off on the side. Hey, make no further alterations to the equipment. So I've heard of some guys, disconnecting thermostat wires, or, shutting off, whatever, pulling low voltage fuses. Don't do that stuff. And then what you're going to do, and some people are going to argue with me here, but you're going to instruct the customer on how to turn the furnace back on if they choose to do so. See, my mentality is I'm not the furnace police, right? My job is not to, police the policeman of all furnaces. See what I'm saying? Hey, where are you here? Hey, where are you? Where are you? Hey, what you doing? Huh? All right, so I'm not the furnace police. So I don't, I'm not out there to just, condemn stuff and shut it down and that. But I do feel I have a sense of liability where, I don't want somebody to get sick or something to happen, and then it falls back on, myself that, I let the thing go in and family died, or like to sleep at night is what I tell people. And then you're going to, like I said, instruct them how to turn the gas stop on, how to turn the furnace back on. And then what I did was I put a liability waiver together. In our text we use, Housecall Pro, which is, good enough for us. So I can find it here. I'm going to get to the right thing here. Housecall Pro. So I go down, and for us it's in notes and, recommendations. And I built a line item here, $0, right? We're going to charge it for, information, but and I'm going to read this. So the heat exchanger is the largest. So I put on here, heat exchanger failure, extremely worn liability waiver. So the heat exchanger is the largest component of your home's heating system, and over the course of its lifespan, it can begin to develop cracks from rust flaking off or prolonged direct flame impingement, okay? So even if you have a furnace and you just see flame impingement and you don't have a crack, I mean, what's going to happen next, right? They're going to develop a crack, as we saw, in those pictures, and then they eventually get bad, because what happens is the metal gets so brittle from getting heated up so hot and then, cool down and heat up, cool up. So when a crack or excessive rust is formed in your furnace, the system may not be able to completely combust the fuel, even if it's rusty. Why? Because it's slowing down that fuel flow, that mixture through the heat exchanger, and it's causing it to, some type of restriction and turbulence and stuff like that. So even excessive rust is not a good thing. This can potentially lead to high and dangerous levels of carbon monoxide entering your home. So maybe you check, with your analyzer, you test the carbon monoxide in the supply ductwork, and there is none there yet. But then you check some in the exhaust, flue pipes, and there's a minimal amount, okay, that still doesn't mean everything's good to go, right? I mean, if you have flame impingement, that little bit that's coming out of the exhaust may be less than, like in our case, if it's less than 100, parts per million, we let it go. We inform the customer. But if you have bad flame impingement, right, you want to, still shut it down and follow these steps. So Comfort Cavalry, our company, deems this as a serious safety concern, and our technicians have extensive training on how to identify what following steps are needed to be made. So what does a heat exchanger do? So all this is educating the customer. It's made up of metal shells and tubes. The heat exchanger is the part of the furnace responsible for generating hot air, but how does it do that? When your furnace burns natural gas or propane, its exhaust byproducts enter and travel through the heat exchanger. The heat, this heats up the metals and passes through the furnace's exhaust outlet. At the same time, the hot metal heats the air that blows across the heat exchanger, right? We all know how that works, but we're educating the customer. From there, the system distributes the warmed air through your home, or throughout your home, your ducts. So and then I put on here again so why do I put all this even after I did that? Because I want documentation. I don't want it to be my word versus somebody else's word. So all this is pre-built into this. Hey, so how we left your heating equipment. The technician had determined the potential safety concern, okay? Keyword is potential safety concern, because it may not necessarily be a safety concern, at this moment, but like I said, it may not be a safety. You may not have high carbon, CO in the supply. You may not have high CO in the flue pipe. You may not see a visual crack. You may not see holes or stuff like that in the heat exchanger. But there's still a potential. You may have really bad impingement today, and it could crack literally overnight. I mean, you don't know when it's going to crack. So I still leave it off, and I'm not being a pusher. I show them how to turn it on. I'm just basically covering my ass, and you need to consider that as well, right? So back to this. So, we left turn off the fuel supply valve feeding the burners, right? Place the service switch in off position. Comfort Cavalry, our company, again, assumes no further liability if you choose to further operate this equipment, as we have followed all the steps necessary to ensure your property and its occupants' safety. Next step to take, okay? Typically, heat exchangers fail at the 12 to 20-year range. If this is true with your equipment, replacing the furnace is our only recommendation. And I'll get more in a second. If the heat exchanger failed prematurely, okay, it may be due to insufficient airflow or improperly sized, causing the furnace to operate in an overheated status. Your technician can better educate you on further corrections. So, again, what caused this the problem in the first place? Was it because if you're installing a furnace, you don't want to lift it by the manifold, the gas cell, because when you tweak those burners and they're not going straight into the pipe, if this finger was a burner, and they're tweaked off center and they're hitting and the fuel is hitting here, now you're gonna get flame impingement at one side. So, whatever the case may be, just tell them, say, listen, this is that. Now, 90% furnaces are another one that trick people up. So on a 90% furnace, the collector box that you see, where the inducer, the plastic inducer assembly is mounted to, that draws the product of combustion out and the flue gases out. If you have seepage around that collector box, me personally, if it's not a big chore, I'll take that front collector box cover off, right? And I'll look in the tubes and see if they're okay, and it's just a leaking gasket situation, or last asshole tighten the screw too tight and crack something on there. You can replace the collector box in the gasket and repair the heat exchanger very easily, right? But if you see, condensation dripping off underneath these collector boxes covers, it's a bad heat exchanger, right? Because if you're getting water through, water takes up more space than gas or air or exhaust, right? So you may be getting, farts of that through there too. So that's not a good heat exchanger. That's bad. And you can easily show that on the front cover. Say, hey, Mr. Homeowner, if I'm getting condensation, when you're driving, that's the analogy I use here is this. You drive behind a car, right, and you see water dripping out of the tailpipe. It's a product of combustion. So it's no different than any fuel-fired appliance. So if you have that condensation dripping out of the heat exchanger cover, you're probably getting some gas coming out of there too. So that needs to be corrected. So we don't, unless it's a really unique, warranty situation, we do not replace heat exchangers, or unless it's a package rooftop unit, something that, is destined to go sooner than later. Most of these furnaces that are 12 to 20 years old and have a failed heat exchanger, why do they fail, right? You have insufficient return air, insufficient supply air. Maybe you have customers running the filter too dirty. They have the wrong size filter. They need a larger filter. A lot of this you can determine what the problem is first and foremost by taking a temperature drop across the furnace, and you should be around that 55-degree range, right? If you're excessively higher than that, then you got to start doing a little more further investigating and doing a static pressure check, externally and across the filter, across the coil, and see what the problem is. Then the next step you're going to do is you're going to make sure that they have adequate ductwork for that size furnace. I can't tell you how many times I see grossly oversized furnaces with grossly undersized, ductwork. That's like having an oversized heart with undersized arteries. I mean, the thing's going to fail prematurely. So don't just sell a replacement furnace. Say, hey, give it an option. Hey, you put in a furnace, we're going to be right back here, and let's see here, we're at 12 years and 3 months. Or put a new furnace in here, right? Update the other problems, put in a larger filter, put in bigger, ductwork or whatever, what have you, so that we don't, run into this problem again in the future, again, at the same 12-month and 12-year and 3-month timeline. So again, the steps to take: determine that the heat exchanger is bad. And this is service technicians, maintenance techs, installation guys, kids buying stuff on Chase. If you come across this stuff, it's badly rusted, visible cracks. The flame impingement's a big one. Okay, 90% furnaces, condensation leaking out of the secondary is a big one. Take pictures, video. When I did this, I tell our guys all the time, when I started in this industry, we didn't even have this cell phone shit. We didn't have, cameras everywhere and iPads. We had Polaroids. You took a picture and you had to shake the thing. Some of the older guys will know what I'm talking about, and show the customer, or you'd have to take the customer and show them themselves. But now you can take videos and upload, videos of the customer, customer folder, just by taking a thing, or a picture or video and upload it, you text it to them, email it to whatever, but do something identifying, make sure they know that this is their house. So here I got a little Christmas tree here. Say, hey, your furnace, you got that Christmas tree up by your furnace, right? Or, you got a cat box right there next to your furnace, or, you got your gym equipment right here. This is Mrs. Smith's house, and this is the date. Say the name and the date on the video, and send it so they know. And then this is where I'm going to show you where the crack is at. Do something to, prove that it's their house. Again, you're not being defensive, you're just educating, but there's always a little line of trust. You want to gain their trust. So, and then the next step, so once you determine you got a problem, record it, shut the gas off, shut the power off. Don't make any other alterations, don't take any wiring off, anything that's going to, let that, and show them how to turn things back on. Explain that liability waiver and send them the liability waiver. And I think everything will be good. If you want, anybody who's watched this who's not part of our company wants a copy of what I have typed up, email me at kevin@comfortcavalry.com and I'll send it to you. Also, I'm going to invite you to listen to my podcast. It's Apex Technician on Apple, Google, Amazon, all these other ones. So give me a list and see what you think. And I'm gonna try to do more of these videos here. All right, have a good one.